It's April 14th, 1912. The North Atlantic is freezing, flat, and silent. Then, out of the dark, a lookout spots it. An iceberg, dead ahead. In our history, the wheel turns too late. But let's imagine, just for a moment, that it doesn't. Perhaps the officer on watch reacts half a second sooner. Maybe the engines respond just a little faster. The ship shudders, scrapes past the ice, and sails on. Most passengers never even wake up. They have no idea how close they just came to becoming legend. A few days later, something incredible happens. The unsinkable ship actually arrives unsunk. New York Harbor turns into an ocean of confetti and cheering crowds. Newspapers scramble to print special editions, calling it the Miracle Crossing. We can guess that J.P. Morgan himself, the man who financed this floating palace, is standing right there on the dock, beaming with pride. In all probability, this isn't remembered as a tragedy at all. It's remembered as the greatest publicity triumph in maritime history. Here's where things get interesting. Because the Titanic never sinks, nobody learns the hard lesson about lifeboats. It's highly possible that safety regulations, the ones we know from real history, simply never get written or get delayed for decades. Shipping companies, hungry for headlines, start racing each other to build bigger, faster, more luxurious liners. Speed and glamour sell tickets, not safety drills. We can guess that somewhere down the line, another ship pays the price for this ignored warning, just with a different name. Fast forward to 1914. Europe is at war, and Britain needs every large vessel it can get. Most likely, Titanic doesn't get to retire gracefully. She gets requisitioned. Perhaps she's repainted in dazzle camouflage and turned into a troop ship, ferrying soldiers across dangerous waters. Or maybe she becomes a hospital ship, treating the wounded instead. Either way, she now faces a threat far more real than ice: German U-boats and floating naval mines. The ship that cheated death once might have to cheat it again. Now let's talk about the people on board. In real history, 3 of America's wealthiest men went down with the ship: John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. But in this version, they all walk off safely in New York. Their fortunes, their businesses, their influence, none of it is lost. It's fascinating to think about, isn't it? A single night, a single decision on the bridge, and suddenly some of the richest, most powerful men in America simply keep on living their lives. Here's where the story gets really wild. All 3 of these billionaires were vocal opponents of a central bank for the United States. In real history, their deaths conveniently cleared the way for the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. So we can guess that, had they survived, they might have used their money and influence to delay it, weaken it, or block it entirely. It's highly possible that America's entire financial system, how we borrow, how we save, even how recessions play out, could look completely different today. Ships, like everything else, eventually grow old. By the 1930s, during the Great Depression, sleek new diesel-powered liners are faster, cheaper to run, and far more efficient. Titanic, most likely, starts falling behind the times. Perhaps she's no longer fit for regular transatlantic crossings at all. It's fairly probable that instead of scrapping her outright, some clever businessman turns her into a permanently docked hotel, or a floating restaurant, a nostalgic novelty for tourists who remember the ship that survived. By the late 1940s, World War II has ended, and the world has moved on to entirely new priorities. The old steel giant, by now decades past her prime, most likely gets quietly decommissioned. There's no dramatic sinking, No headline-grabbing farewell. Just a slow tow to a shipyard where she's dismantled piece by piece for scrap metal. In all probability, she shares the same fate as almost every other great ocean liner of her era. Forgotten machinery, melted down, and recycled into something new. And here's the strangest part of all this. Without the sinking, there's no tragedy to romanticize. No haunting stories of a band playing as the ship goes down. No decades-long obsession with a wreck resting 2 miles underwater. It's highly possible that James Cameron never makes his movie, and there's no global fascination, no museum exhibits, no legendary status at all. Titanic simply becomes a small footnote in a shipping catalog, remembered, if at all, as just another big boat. So here we are. One officer, one late-night decision, one iceberg narrowly missed, and an entire century unfolds differently. No myth, no movie, but perhaps a completely different Federal Reserve, a different Wall Street, maybe even a different global economy altogether. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If those billionaires had lived and reshaped America's financial future, do you think the world today would be wealthier and more stable? Or would we be facing even bigger crises than the ones we know? Let me know what you think. Let me